Life isn't fair. In life, you can be the kindest, most considerate person in the world and still be ground into the dust by someone more selfish or ambitious or just plain evil, someone who knows how to play the system. Video games, on the other hand, should be different. We play video games to escape from the real world, to see the hero come out on top and the villain receive their just desserts. It might just be feel-good wish fulfillment, but it works. Strange then that there are plenty of games willing to buck that trend, to put players through a great many trials and tribulations, dangle the hope of a happy ending in front of them, before snatching it away and laughing as it kicks it into the mud. But why? Well, plenty of reasons. Sometimes it's to set up a sequel or make a point about humanity or society, or sometimes the developers are nothing more than callous, heartless fiends who want to make us hurt. But then again, who doesn't love a downer ending every once in a while? Beware, spoilers for the games you see on your screen right now. I'm the dastardly Ashton from TripleJump, and here are 10 video games where the villain wins. Number 10, For Honor. When you think of For Honor, two things may come to mind. Either its brutal art of battle combat system, or its charismatic Viking-esque creative director. What you maybe don't think of is its single-player campaign. In fact, with so much focus centred around its unique multiplayer offerings, you'd be forgiven for only just finding out it has a story at all. Set in a fantastical medieval world in which knights, Vikings and samurai exist in the same time period, the story starts when bloodthirsty warlord Apollyon deems mankind has grown weak and sets out to remedy that, violently. Her goal is simple, all-out war, and she aims to achieve it by manipulating the three factions into fighting each other. Playing as each faction in turn, players will do their utmost to stop Apollyon in her tracks, but she's too powerful, and even though she's finally struck down in the end, her machinations have already been set into motion. All three factions turn against each other and bloody warfare ensues. She could have left everyone to their own devices and still got the same result, however. People are just good at hating each other for no reason. Just take a look at a typical YouTube comment section, eh? Number 9, Prince of Persia, 2008. The Sands of Time trilogy had its dark points. See the prince's emo phase in Warrior Within. Yet it had plenty of moments of levity to break the tension and allow players a glimpse of the prince's charm and humanity. They even had optimistic endings, for the most part. These games were followed by the even more optimistic Prince of Persia 2008, a colourful, cel-shaded, more family-friendly reboot. So, what's it doing on this list? Well, for all its friendship, heroism and distinct lack of blood and gore, the player can't even die, instead being rescued by AI partner and Princess of Light, Elika. Prince of Persia 2008 gets surprisingly dark at its conclusion. Throughout the game, players are tasked with stopping the corrupting influence of Ahriman, an ancient god of darkness, by sealing the big old baddie away for good in the Tree of Life. Unfortunately, this comes at the cost of Elika's life, who has given up everything to save the world. The prince cannot live with this, and instead of moving on, elects to resurrect Elika by cutting down the Tree of Life, and in the process, re-releasing Ahriman. The game ends with the God of Darkness subjugating the world to his will. All that hard work for nothing. Number 8, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The Call of Duty series isn't known for its hard-hitting, emotional campaigns, bombastic set pieces, high-octane multiplayer shootouts, and 12-year-olds saying rude things about your mother are what it's known for. That being said, there was a time when fans were dying to know what the future had in store for Captain Price and his magnificent facial hair. The original Modern Warfare trilogy started in 2007 with Call of Duty 4 and introduced players to a new, more sophisticated kind of war, where there were no front lines and nuclear annihilation was only a button push away. While the game remained fairly grounded, Modern Warfare 2 went completely off the rails, starting with a massacre in a Russian airport and going on to see fighting outside the White House as Russia invades the US. despite everything the player does, World War III inevitably breaks out and the globe is plunged into the fires of war. This is because the game was rigged. General Shepard, commander of Task Force 141, had secretly been orchestrating the war from the beginning, moving all the pieces into place and setting them off like a row of dominoes. Yes, you kill him in the end, but by then it's too late, and you helped set those plans in motion. Number 7. Singularity. The early 2010s were known for their myriad grey-brown gritty shooters, starring morally grey characters usually voiced by Nolan North. Singularity is one such game, and while protagonist Nathaniel Renko might be silent, his best friend is played by Nolan North. I'm surprised any other actors got work back then. While it has interesting mechanics, Singularity has, ironically, faded into the history books in the years since its release. Set in an alternate history where a Soviet Union scientist, Borisov, has developed a time manipulation device, the story sees players phasing between the present day and 1955, last crusading enemies to dust and trying to fix the timeline. The game has 3 endings to choose between, but unlike choices in most other video games, all 3 are bad. The first sees Renko shoot main antagonist Demichev to stop him getting his hands on the TMD, then going back in time and killing himself to prevent any of this from ever happening, which leads to scientist Borisov ultimately taking over the world. The second sees Renko shooting Borisov and taking over the world with villain Demichev, only to later split up and start a civil war. And the third sees Renko shoot both Demichev and Borisov, then take over the world himself. The lesson? Leave time alone, for goodness sake. Number 6. Castlevania: Legacy of Darkness. The problem with prequels is their endings are foregone conclusions, already written in stone by the original. And seeing as most original stories start with a villain in control and the good guys as the plucky underdogs, those endings are often bleak. No one went into Revenge of the Sith thinking Anakin was going to come out smelling like roses, is what I'm saying. Castlevania: Legacy of Darkness, being a prequel to Castlevania 64, likewise had its ending predetermined before it ever started development. Legacy of Darkness follows the story of Cornell, powerful warrior and lycanthrope, as he battles and bounces his way through macabre environments to rescue his adoptive sister Ada from Dracula's clutches. Cornell, and by extension the player, go through the entire game believing Dracula plans to sacrifice Ada to resurrect himself and be reborn at full power. This, however, is a cunning trick, as in order to rescue Ada, Cornell must give up his wolf powers, and it's this sacrifice that Dracula was hoping for. While Cornell and Ada end up surviving the ordeal, they inadvertently restore Dracula to the height of his power and bring about untold destruction and death because of it. Whoopsie! At least Dracula stays dead at the end of Castlevania 64, right? Number 5. Resistance 2. The Resistance series was developer Insomniac's first real foray into the realms of gritty grey-brown shooters, after their success with the more family-friendly Ratchet & Clank series. As a launch game for the PS3, Fall of Man certainly made an impression and kickstarted an impressive trilogy, one ripe for the rebooting. Set in a grim alternate history, in which the Tunguska incident was, in reality, the arrival of a terrifying race of aliens known as the Chimera, who breach the closed borders of the Russian Empire and swarm over Europe in a matter of months, Resistance 2 sees the Chimera take the fight to the good old US of A. Players step back into the combat boots of Sergeant Hale to stop them. Problem is, Hale was infected by the Chimeran virus in the first game, and it's getting worse. By the end, despite killing Daedalus, the hyper-intelligent amalgam of Chimera and human DNA, and detonating a nuke to wipe out the Chimeran fleet, Hale succumbs to his virus and becomes a full-on villain. His former squadmate Capelli shoots him in the head and watches on as a wormhole tears through the sky, realising in horror it had all been for naught. Tough break, Capelli, but at least it can't get any worse. Number 4. Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption. The cowboy game, so good, it scared everyone else off of ever making one of their own. which is a shame because as a genre, the Western has everything. High-stakes shootouts, daring robberies, gang betrayals, cool hats, everything. The problem is, to get the full experience of what the Wild West had to offer, your protagonist really has to be an outlaw through and through. And seeing as a majority of outlaws were lucky if they got to see their 30th birthday, it's safe to say most met a grisly end at the hands of the law. While most games would see the law land squarely in the good guy category, Edgar Ross and his cronies are in firm villain territory. He's underhanded and amoral, but he serves the law to the letter, and as such, deems it necessary for John Marston to die. Despite everything John does to prove he's a changed man, who just wants to settle down with his family, and tracking down and killing his former friends and gang members, Ross cannot abide a known outlaw living free in his new America. So he has John shot down in cold blood. I already knew crime didn't pay, Rockstar. You didn't have to go and break my heart to prove your point. Number 3, Halo Reach. Another prequel, another tragedy whose sorry end you already know all too well. Doesn't stop those tears pricking the corners of your eyes when you actually see it for yourself, though. The planet Reach was once a powerful military base until the Covenant invaded, overrunning the world, obliterating the UNSC's fleet, and essentially kicking off the events of the first Halo game. It's a harrowing story of a team of selfless martyrs, gladly laying down their lives for the greater good, and one fans of the first 3 games have ingrained into their very souls. And when Halo Reach was released, they finally experienced it firsthand. Playing as Noble 6, a member of the ill-fated Noble team, players live through the entire tragic tale, from the moment the Covenant launched their attack, to Noble Team's final stand defending the UNSC ship, the Pillar of Autumn, as it makes its escape. Knowing the ending does little to dull its impact, as you get to know the members of the Noble Team as people, and love them as brothers. And that final shot, watching the man you controlled for the last dozen hours or so finally fall, it sticks with you. I guess you could say a happy ending was just out of reach. Oh, too soon? Number 2, Far Cry 5. Swapping savannas and tropical islands for the dead centre of Montana in the United States may seem like a downgrade to American audiences, but with its sweeping woodland valleys and majestic mountains, Hope County is exceedingly exotic to the rest of the world. That, and this specific slice of Americana, fits Far Cry's wacky eccentricities to a T. What with its gun nuts, cult worshippers, and doomsday preppers. Remember that last one, by the way. Like many of the recent Far Cry games, 5 has multiple endings. The player is given 2 chances to simply walk away rather than arrest charismatic cult leader and Jared Leto wannabe Joseph Seed, right at the very start and again at the very end of the game. Do so and Seed will be free to spread his rhetoric and control over the region. However, after hours of gunfights and near death at the hands of his lieutenants, most players will choose to arrest him. Do so, and that nuclear apocalypse those preppers were prepping for, and Joseph was prophesizing, actually comes to pass. A blinding flash, a world of fire, and you end up locked in a bunker with Joseph as he launches into another monologue, gloating that he was right. Hope you two can get along now. There's no escaping this bunker. And number 1, Shadow of the Colossus. As we've already learnt from Prince of Persia, using magic to bring someone back from the dead never goes well for anyone. And really, the moment Wanda started listening to a shadowy voice from the sky, you should have twigged he was going to be in for a bad time. Shadow of the Colossus opens with Wanda entering the Forbidden Lands with the corpse of his dear departed Mono. Placing her on an altar, he hears the dark whispers of Dormin, a disembodied godlike being, who says he can bring Mono back so long as Wanda slays the 16 Colossi who call these lands home. Of course, it doesn't take you long to realise this might not be a good idea. The Colossi are godlike beings themselves and never hurt anyone. But the game is a masterpiece of sound, visual and game design, a real joy to play. So even though you know you're doing the wrong thing, you just can't help yourself. Naturally, the more of these creatures you slay, the worse things get, until poor Wanda is completely possessed by Dormin. Yes, Dormin is sealed away in the end, but the wonder you knew is no more, the majestic colossi are gone, and the Forbidden Lands are now nothing but desolate ruins. Well done.